on here, but today is June 21st. Good afternoon to all my sports people in Radio Land. This is Sports Talk. Name is Kathya Davis, and I'll be your host. We do this every Saturday between the hours of 1 to 2 p.m. right here on the family station, Love 101 FM. And can I tell you, say, by the way, let me preface by saying that the views expressed in Sports Talk are not necessarily the views of Love 101 FM. And you will know later why I have to say that because we, we're going to talk some things. A lot has been going on, a whole lot. And you guys, I'm sure are keeping abreast. And if you have not been keeping abreast of the information, I'll be here to offer that information today. We're going to be talking about some football. We're going to be talking about the NBA. We're going to be talking about track and field. We're going to be talking about track and field. In particular, we're going to be talking about some field in track and field because some stories have come out, and trust me, you don't want to change your dial because I have some things to say. I have some thoughts. I have some guests line up that will be on the show at 1:30, and they will give their views on what exactly is transpiring in the field. In the field, in the field, in the field, in the field. Okay? So you want to stick and stay for that because the life is changing as it relates to sports, I always say. And when athletes feel underappreciated, undervalued, then we find ourselves in Turkey. Right. Um, Pastor Courtney decided to come back in the studio. I don't know why. Why? I want to. I'm trying to be on my best behavior today. I promise, and I promise I'll be on my best behavior. But I really, really have some thoughts because, and it's from both perspectives. By the way, I really, really have some thoughts to share with us today. But you know what? I didn't get a chance to speak about um to speak about the NBA last week. So I think it was only, good that we start with what's going on in the NBA finals. Before I do that, we're also gonna be talking about Reggae Boys at about 1:15. So you wanna stay tuned for that. What's going on in the Gold Cup. And we'll have another guest. Well, we have a guest joining us as well for that time. When we speak about the Reggae Boys. So, NBA Finals, right? People, talk to me. Talk to me. Are you guys watching the NBA Finals? What are your thoughts? I mean, the series is now tied at 3-all between the Indiana Pacers and the Oklahoma Thunder. And boy, you know, I I've been having a discussion with a friend, right? And oh, well, okay. Carolyn says in Oklahoma or OKC for the win in 7. She did actually say this last week. She did actually say this last week. Caroline, are you still holding on to your words of Oklahoma in 7? I mean, boy, this I one thing that I can say is that tomorrow will be at 7 o'clock will be a very interesting time. And going back to what I was saying earlier, a friend of mine and I have been at it. Well, not at it, but you'll hear why. Trying to determine if this NBA finals, if it's significant in any way. Like we are trying to determine whether or not, if Indiana Pacers win or if the Oklahoma Thunder win, if people are gonna remember that they're champions. And one of the things that I've been sticking to is, listen, it really don't it really don't matter because right now I'm sure James Harden, James Harden, no, not James Harden. What Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant would have given anything. Well, Russell Westbrook in particular, because Kevin Durant has won 2 rings with the Golden State Warriors. But I'm sure Russell Westbrook would give anything to be a part of that OKC team, which is close to championship. My thought is I always prefer, especially when they have a rounded team, that the MVP of the league wins the NBA. And that's always been my thought, because if you have a good team and you stood out as a player, then I believe it's only right. I mean, listen, my analysis is very skewed, I'll tell you that, but it is my thoughts, right? It's my opinion. I just believe that you are the MVP, your team should win the league. That's all, nothing much. And so we go into game 7. After the Indiana Pacers. I don't know. This series is just so interesting. I mean, other than I think the first game was very close. Pacers won by 1. And then after that, it's just been a blowout on each side. Pacers won the last match 108-91. And I mean, the previous match, Oklahoma Thunder won 120-109. The previous match, they won 111-104. Then in game, all right, so let's go from so it's been that series. I mean, the series started with the Oklahoma Thunder. They led that first game in Oklahoma by what you call it. They were leading by 20 points with like 4 minutes to go and lost that game by 1 point. Crazy. Then the second game was a little, it could have called it a little blowout, 123-107. Then we moved to Indiana, where that game ended 116-107. Then the second game, Oklahoma won in Indiana, 111-104. Then it was 120-109. Oklahoma won that game, went 3-2 up in the series, and then the series returned to Indiana, where Indiana won 108-91. And of course, the final game in the series, in the best of 7 series, happened tomorrow at 7 p.m. Jamaica time. I see some interesting, Pastor Courtney. I see some interesting comments coming up on my YouTube here, boy. Help us, help me. Anyways, sticking to the basketball for now. But yeah, so I mean, I still think that Oklahoma will win tomorrow. I think that their crowd, I don't know, something about the Oklahoma crowd. They're just, those people though, them barely keep quiet, I mean, barely. And I think they're a good supporting crowd. And they've been a good support crowd throughout the season. And so, I mean, I can't, I really, I mean, my preference is Oklahoma. And if you know my preference, I do have a preference to the West teams in the West. Except for if I don't really like the team in the West and Boston is in the Celtics is in the finals, then I may cheer for Celtics. But other than that, I'm a proud supporter of the Western teams. And so in this case, that some people say it's an insignificant NBA finals. I don't know what them tell that, because the people that were going out with them money same way. So whether or and the debate was whether it's more, if this year is more significant than the COVID NBA. But like, which one will you remember? Will you remember that Indiana or Oklahoma won in 2025, or will you remember that Lakers won in 2020? Like, what will you remember, right? Right. Very interesting. Very interesting. But yeah, it has been an interesting final so far. But I think as I said, the Oklahoma Thunder will come out on top. Let me see what Carolyn has to say. Carolyn says that SGA will be taking the 3 MVP titles. They have to keep the NBA land happy. Plus, revenues were down for game one viewership. Carrying it to game seven is good. I see, Caroline. You have a point there. But Caroline, yes, it was down because the two teams that are playing, I didn't really support them like that. I mean, it is the truth. It is the truth. Ain't nobody like. I mean, maybe I don't even know if anybody like. You ask those outside the sporting world if they know who SGA is. Nobody. You see anybody selling SGA's jersey? What is the most sell jersey in the NBA this year? Probably still LeBron or Curry or one of those other players. Definitely not SGA. So I can understand when you don't have a big team or maybe Jason Tatum's jersey or something is the best selling in the NBA this year. But when you don't have any big names per se, and I put big names in quotation because SGA has been amazing. He's been really good throughout this season and totally deserved that title. But yeah, when you have that, then when you have that, then you hope that the series, and I'm sure the odds have worked in the NBA's favor with the games heading to if the with the games or the series rather heading to game seven. So we look forward to that. We look forward to what is to come and who will be crowned NBA champion tomorrow, which is I think going to be very interesting. I am so glad that you know a certain team is not playing tomorrow so that I can have my full attention. So that I can have my full attention on the NBA tomorrow. Talking about certain team, we're gonna be talking about them shortly. Uh, if you haven't picked up my cue, it's the reggae boys I'm talking about. Them same one, reggae boys. But yeah. So I haven't giving you guys an update in a few weeks about what's going on in the Jamaica Women's Premier League. Of course, skipping just a bit, Fraser's Whip, they're still leading that charge in the Jamaica Women's Premier League. Today's games: Fraser's Whip versus Wi-Fi United, Mile Gully versus Proven Girls, Real Mabe versus Federal, Arnett Gardens versus Los Perfectos, Cavalier versus Springers United. And yeah, so that's the Jamaica Women's Premier League, and I'm sure some of these games are still being played on YouTube. So if you'd like, all these games kick off at 3:30, except for the Cavalier Springers United game. That one kicks off at 2 o'clock. All right, we're going to go for our first break on Sports Talk. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Reggae Boys' performance so far in the Gold Cup. And I told you, you don't want to leave because at 1:30, we'll be taking a trip to Turkey. We'll be right back.
Truth is, HIV affects everyone. Truth is, avoiding care leads to a weaker immune system. That means you could get really sick. The truth is, the hardest pill to swallow isn't the medication. It's the problems that follow when you don't take them. Let's get through this together. Remain in care. You can live life to the fullest with HIV. And that's the truth. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
All right. We're going to do a roll call.
The Love Jockey is on duty every Saturday inside Youth Connection. Don't miss the hype. Don't miss the tunes. Don't miss the excitement with your boy, DJ Rebirth. Saturdays at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on the family station, Love 101. At 3 p.m., your DJ runs the gospel rhythm. Hot, hot. Tune in at 4 p.m. for a time where we share a word to grow your mind. GYM, grow your mind. Jim. Get it? Grow your mind. And at 4:30 p.m., we share with you how young people are giving all their time and fulfilling their purpose inside Ministry in Action. We get a taste of poetry and spoken word inside Poetry and Praise. And you get to send us a WhatsApp message and request your favorite gospel song inside Gospel Faves at 5. All this and more every Saturday at 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. with your love jock, your boy, DJ Rebirth. It's all here on the family station, Love
Everybody,
101.
youth connection. Shubopti and them figured him provide everything on guide people we trot. Shubopti and them figured him alone make we appear when we did sad. Hey, hey. Shubopti.
All right, welcome back to Sports Talk right here on the family station, Love 101 FM. If you've been under a rock, and I'm sure you have not been, you would know that the Reggae Boys, they're currently participating in the Gold Cup happening in the US of A. And we're going to be talking about two games. Jamaica would have played earlier this week. They would have played Guatemala. And of course, they would have also played Guadeloupe last night. Joining me, no stranger, he was here last night. Last week, well, last night, last week is Tajay Brown from CC Sportsland Lab. Tajay, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon, I'm fine. I'm surprised you said, well, I won't say anything about the blooper, bro, but I'm okay.
You won't say anything about?
The blooper.
And highlights the blooper while you won't say anything. You're not. But anyways, I know where to find you. That's all I will say. Anyways, but Tashay, um, out of 10, because you know what, I love to rate. I love the ratings thing. How has the Reggae Boys' performance over the two games versus Guatemala versus Guadeloupe? Out of 10, how has the performance been?
So for me, out of 10, the performance is, for the two performance combined,
Yes. Two of them combined.
I would say 6.
Six.
Yeah, because the first game, I think we played, I mean, we lost 1-0, but I think we played the first game. Um, A little bit, though, the entire game we played a bit better than the second game. But the second game, the first half was the best first half we had in the tournament. When you combine both games, I just think you probably have one good game out of the two games because the second half of the first game and the first half of the second game. So you combine that together, I think that would have been a good performance, but it's split over two games. So I really have to say 6 out of 10. This is the performance combined that I would give the team.
All right, cool, no problem. All right, let's zoom in on the first game because I hear a lot of persons saying, and we would have said it last week, right? That the Guatemala team that played us in the Gold Cup round, that they had players to add to their team, and so we should expect a better Guatemala team. And well, more than better, but talk to me through about your thoughts. Let's start with the first 45 minutes of that particular Guatemala game. But before I ask you about the first 45 minutes, did you think that Coach McLaren started with the right 11 versus Guatemala?
I didn't think the coach started with the right 11, and I think that is because we played Guatemala in Kingston. So we played Guatemala in Kingston already. That means they would have seen what we could have. They would have seen what we were capable of doing with that 11, minus Isaac Aiden, which was a forced change. So if he had not to change Isaac Aiden, he probably would have used the same exact team. And that is a problem because if you're going to play a team back to back, they would have done their homeworks on the players that would have started and then would have thought, okay, if you go with this lineup, this is what we could do to nullify this or that player. And you realize that that's what they did against Demar Gray playing in the 10. That's what they did against Cephas playing on the wing, and that's what they did with Leon Bailey. So I think going with the same players all across the board and making a four substitution and then playing Damian Lowe in midfield, I would say started out on the back foot in terms of the Guatemalans changing their team entirely for the most part, and then us coming over there with the same team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that playing Guatemala the week before really, really put us in a very distant really put it as a disadvantage. And we saw it throughout the game. It's clear that they just whatever script they had before Guatemala, they just ripped it up and just planned the game according to the previous week. Um in terms of the first half performance, though, Richard King coming off early substitution, Richard King, and of course, I think Damian Lowe ended up getting injured as well. Um, Talk to me a little bit about what you think we could have done better in that first half of that Guatemala game.
So what I think we could have done better in that first half of that Guatemala game is control the middle of the park a little bit better. I think in transition, especially when we are playing an inverted right back, right? In terms of we're trying to invert with Latibodier coming into the midfield and creating a three-man midfield and trying to create a central overload in that middle of the park area. But when he came in the midfield, Damian Lowe is possession or even control and trying to pass the ball out didn't really offer much. So we were constantly chasing around players in the middle of the park when we were trying to create the overload. So is I think Damian Lowe's inability to just collect and pass the football in midfield was the kind of done. It's almost to say without Isaac Aiden, you can see that the shape unravels in that area. And then that's what kind of led to us being disjointed. You realize that the defense was a little bit distance from the midfield, and the midfield was a little bit distance from the forward line. So there weren't any real linkage of plus play between defense to midfield to attack, and that never enabled us to create a lot of opportunities. So I would say that in and of itself is the reason why Jamaica played so poorly in that first half because of the way in which that midfield was not linking up. And I think when they got the injury and I think Richard King came off and Damian Lowe went to centre back, you realize the game started to play a little bit better because Damian Lowe is a much better centre back than he is a makeshift defensive midfielder.
Oh, most definitely. Do you think in terms of how Coach McLaren goes about the games, I find sometimes that it can come off as reactive instead of proactive. Do you think that after the first half that the changes, I mean, I think we had some change at halftime, but do you think that in terms of how he tried to restructure the team, you think it was too late in trying to chase the game?
I don't think it is too late because once there are minutes in the game, it's 1-0 and there's minutes on the board still left. So rather to not change, try anything, I thought he was apt in trying something like throwing the kitchen sink because at one point in time he threw all of the attackers out there. So I mean, you could see that it was a desperate move. But as you rightfully say, I think some of the times we start off on a reactive point of view rather than a proactive point of view, like going into the game with a set plan to say, oh, this is what we're going to do. I don't think every game is going to be the same, but when you're playing an opposition that you've played 6 days ago or so, you have to take a different kind of approach because you would have already shown your hand. So they would have done their scouting report regardless. But the fact that you've played them now, they have a more in-depth knowledge of what you can bring, or what you are doing, whatever tactical adjustments they are making. For example, why play a inverted against them again? Why not just use an overlapping wing back and make like Lembikisa play that overlapping role and Latibodier comes in the middle of the park? I mean, I'm not a coach, but I think you play in a opposition the same way twice, and they have other personnel to change up, especially a game that neither of us needed to win. Um, you're kind of setting up yourself right there.
All right, let's move quickly to the game last night because I get you said before we played better against Guatemala, but we started better against Guadeloupe. Um, and I don't know because last night, especially for the last 15 minutes of the game, in my opinion, I don't even know. I think we probably had a lapse in terms of defense, and Guadeloupe just came at us, and I don't really thought that we had any answers for them. But let's look at that game in the last section of this segment. Overall, your overall thoughts on the game last night.
What we say is that it's the poor game management that crept back in for us. Here gone are the days when we used to uh concede a goal late in every game. Every game that we played, we used to concede a goal late. We would go up early in those games, or even against the big bad USA, we would go up 1-0, and then late down in the game at the death, USA is finding an equalizer. And I think this Guadeloupe game played out the same. It's almost like it crept back into the back of our minds, like, yo, we're playing good, but any moment they could come and win. And I think when Guadeloupe started pressing us for the last like 15 to 20 minutes, we didn't have an answer. And I think the referee even bailed us out a bit, because like even that one that they scored, while I can see that it is a foul, you don't normally get those. So that was even a gift. And then Andre Blake with his superhuman shot stopping ability saved us as well. I mean, he took one off the line, so we were hanging on for dear life at the last part of that game. And I haven't seen Jamaica been that awful closing out games for a long while.
Yeah, well, definitely. So Tuesday we play Panama. Do you think we'll be able to at least carve out a draw or win against Panama? I mean, Guatemala will play Guadeloupe. I'm not sure if the way how Guatemala will know that they will have to win against Guadeloupe and hoping. I mean, we are again, and I you really hate when the team find themselves in this position of waiting for a team to do something for us to be able to go through. I
But
mean,
but
but
the thing about it though, Kathia, is that you don't necessarily have to wait. Both teams are playing at the same time. That's why final group games come down to the same time, because we don't want any collusion we don't want it to give an image of something is going wrong behind the scenes.
oh,
So for
definitely,
me,
definitely.
yeah, so for me, I think Jamaica might carve out a victory, but it's going to be a very, very hard fought victory because this Panamanian team, they have adjusted the way they play because they're without their star midfielder in Carrasquilla, but they are very dangerous in transition, and you realize they attack quickly. So I think the coach will have to go to the drawing board. Bobby Reed is now in the camp, so that is a boost for us. So let's see how he goes about the business against Tuesday. And I mean, everybody with us back the team, I think with open our hearts, we can say, oh, help them get over the line.
Most definitely. I definitely agree with you, Tajay, and we don't agree most of the time. So you can
All right.
you understand. Thanks so much, Tajay.
Yeah, man, no
We'll catch
problem.
up next week because, of course, we have to talk about the once the Gold Cup is still going on, and this
Yeah,
is still
man.
an ongoing conversation. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too.
All
Thanks.
right, brothers. All right, that was Tajay Brown from CC Sports Lad talking about the Reggae Boys' performance against Guadeloupe and Guatemala. We play Panama on Tuesday in the final group game in our group in the CONCACAF Gold Cup happening in the US of A. We're gonna go to our second break on the show, and when we come back, it will be track and field.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Have you ever lived through a traumatic event while others didn't? Whether it was war, a natural disaster, an accident, or witnessing a tragic crime, survival can leave you asking, why me? Why did I make it when others didn't? These lingering questions often come with a heavy burden of guilt. This week on Family Time, join host Dr. Joan Pinkney and guest Sonia Winter as they discuss the topic Survivor's Remorse. That's Family Time, Monday, June 23 at 5:30 p.m. here on the Family Station, Love 101.
All right. Welcome back to Sports Talk right here on the Family Station, Love 101 FM. And from the get go of the show, I said to you, do not move. We had to get the football out of the way. So thanks to the football people for being here. Well, we'll have to get to the story of the week. And I think I'm I sound excited, right? It's because I'm trying to ensure that I keep it at a level that I don't get carried away with this story. But earlier this week, news broke about Jamaican athletes. At the time, we were told field athletes' names weren't released. They switching allegiance to Turkey. Then later in the week, we started to get the names, starting with the Olympic gold medalist, Olympic record holder in the discus for Jamaica, first one to ever do it, Roger Stoner, Regina Campbell, bronze medalist at last year Olympics. And then we got Wayne Pinnock, silver medalist at the last year Olympics. And of course, world under 20 record holder in the triple jump, Wayne Pinnock. Joining me this afternoon to speak about this and, of course, the um, upcoming national junior and senior trials, because it's twofold. Because we have to talk about the matter at hand. So we my guests are gonna be joining me now. I know they have a lot to say. So first is Kamal Ford. You guys know Kamal. Kamal has been on this show a lot of times. Knowing that Kamal, I hear a birdie told me you are now working with Amelia Sport. Anyways, we'll get to that. We want to say, because this is my show and I can say anything, congratulations to Kemal, because we know now that Kemal has completed his degree finally.
Finally,
So I
thank you
want to
very much.
say congratulations to you, Kemal. Thank you. Welcome, Kemal. And of course, our second guest, which is he reached out to me. He said, he loves track and field and he wants to talk about track and field. We know him as D Major. D Major, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm
Okay.
great. I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
All right.
Yes.
Cool. Great. Happy to have both of you gentlemen on the show
Yes.
with me today. Quite happy to have, and we have lots to talk about. Um but let's start with you, Kemal. Because I know you are very close to some of these athletes who will be switching or have started the process, some maybe completed. the process of switching allegiance to Turkey. What was your Kemal initial reaction to the news?
All right, let me just say thank you very much for having me as per usual, and it's great to be here on the family station, of course. I was shocked. I found out about this about Monday coming would have made 2 weeks, 2 weeks, right? Found out the Monday and I was shocked, and I was saying that like when I started to hear the nitty gritty about money and the reasons and everything like that, I've started to become more understanding, but I started to think that, hey, how will Jamaica react? You understand, like in the sense that these persons created history for us. Wayne Pinnock, first Olympic long jump medal in like 28 years. Rajendra Campbell, Olympic bronze medalist in the shot put, first person to do that, and we have Roger Stone as well, and Jaden Hibbert, who is very much loved by Jamaica. I was very much shocking. Like I was thinking, how will people react? How will things go going forward for them, and just overall them as athletes? How would they feel? Because you understand that we may depending on the direction of Jamaican media, we may never know what Jamaican media might say. Like saying that they don't have any loyalty to the country, but I say this to say that you really can't blame a person for truly having their best interest, especially when these young men. Jaden Hibbert is the only one who's still in school now, finishing his degree at University of Arkansas. Campbell, Stoner, and Pinnock have their degrees and everything. So smart enough young men who can manage their finances well and have good careers beyond track.
Yeah. D Major, as a fan of the sport, what
Uh,
was your reaction to this news?
well, just like everyone else, it was a shocker. Um, it was a shocker to hear all of a sudden, and then not just one, not just two, but like four names came at us, right away. And then to hear that others, are in conversation as well. It was indeed a shock. I didn't see it coming that Turkey would have approached athletes, and there would be there would be an exodus like this. However, when I look at everything, this is the result. This is the result of a support system that might not have been supporting as best as they could. Asafa came out and he spoke about some things and he was vilified. A lot of people, jump on Asafa and was cussing him, thinking that it's like him never know what he must say. But he was speaking from a father's perspective. Everyone missed that. And Asafa hinted at, the fact that he got offers. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
seemed to have missed that too. He didn't take it at the time, you know. But this, it has been always, it has always been knocking on our doors, and we didn't change anything. So, this generation seem to be the ones that are showing that, hey, we have to look out for ourselves straight up, and we're going to make the move.
Yeah,
So our association, I think, really has to look into it. We can go into that a little more
yeah,
later in
yeah,
the show. Hmm.
definitely, definitely. I'll say this because
Hmm.
a lot of persons have been saying, "Oh, but they're selling out the country," and oh, I see a lot of comments and people that don't know. One thing I will say though, and this is genuinely my opinion. I don't know, gentlemen, if you agree, but I do not think, or government, I do not think the J3 is, especially to the field athletes. Because we can talk about track, because it's two separate. I don't think the field athletes have gotten the recognition and the support that they would have needed over these years. And I think this exodus of our athletes moving to Turkey is just us reaping what we would have sown over the years for our lack of support to field athletes. And
Definitely.
it,
It's exactly that. I mean, as close as recent as last year Olympics, Daniel did an interview. She was basically in tears, saying the association did not allow her or did not make facility plans or anything for her coach, which is her husband, to be there. She was out her coach, going into games to represent Jamaica, you know. She was going into the Olympic game, or international championship, and she was without her coach for 2 weeks. That alone is the least, and that is unacceptable. So
And she wasn't the only one. She wasn't the
no, no,
only
no, no,
one, right?
no.
Because
Lamar,
you think
Lamar
about
Distin.
Lamara Distin, but then I want to start before we get to the Olympics, D Major and Kemal,
Mm-hmm.
because don't let us not forget that
Uh-huh.
Nia Clunis's name was
Mm-hmm.
left off our list because of negligence. Somebody never do them due diligence and leave this girl. You have one qualified discus women's discuss
Yep.
person in
Yep.
your
Yep.
country, and you are
Yep.
telling me that you are putting a provisional list together and the only person who has the Olympic qualifying standard is left off your list.
Exactly.
This,
Now I don't know how long your show is, but there are too many examples to mention. I am
Yeah.
sure in this show, but that is sad. You know, it goes to show that we have nothing substantial to put forward and defend J3 now and say, you did your best and what, because that if we had a case where we can say J3, we see where you did the best, you went all out, government as well, and you collaborated and tried your best for our athlete. Because one thing is for sure, we cannot match these bigger countries with their offers. We won't be able to match them. However, my thing is we need to do better for our athletes. We are competing amongst the best in the world, and we have always produced quality performances. We have always competed, with the best of the best, and
yeah,
beat them on many occasions. So we have to go all out for these athletes. We owe it to them, man. We
definitely.
say at
Yeah.
Kima,
least
yeah,
Rajinja. Sorry, one more point.
go
Rajinja
ahead. Uh-huh.
won us a medal, and Rajinja seemed to be still has to work. A 9 to 5 to train, to send himself to the games and stuff. No, man, that can't.
Yeah, I have a point on that, but we'll take that when we'll come back. But Kemal, I'll give you the last minute and a half in this segment
Yeah,
to
and overall, it comes down to again, it's not about the money alone that is actually forcing these athletes to leave the country. Because had the athletes been getting some form of some financial incentives, but better treatment, more welcoming, if had the federation had better relationship with the athletes and like show them love, show them appreciation in the sense that getting assistance is a phone call away. You don't have to go to any amount of processes to get additional funding or to get access to health insurance, etc., and all that. So had it been
Exactly.
had a better relationship been developed there, these athletes would have said, you know what, I'm going to stick with Jamaica and everything. And even Jaden Hibbert as well has a lucrative contract. Wayne Pinnock as well has lucrative contract. In the case of like Stoner and Campbell, who don't have such lucrative contract, it's more understanding on their path as well. But again, you can't really blame them for choosing what they have done. Like they have a lot of the time in a track and field or any sport is determined on what have you done for me lately. And if you can last at least 2 Olympic cycles, you're good. Not everyone is able to go beyond that 4-year Olympic cycle, go to 2, 3 Olympics. You understand me?
exactly. Kamal, I want you to repeat what you first started with. For the people in the back that cannot hear, this decision by these four athletes, and we'll talk about it more when we come back from the break, is not solely on the big monies that is being offered in Turkey.
No, it's not.
Caroline has said it here. Caroline says the athletes have to secure themselves, their legacies, and their peace of mind.
Most
Peace of
definitely.
mind.
Most
Important.
definitely.
Gentlemen, we're going to go for a break. We'll be right back here on
Definitely.
Sports Talk.
Okay.
The 45 billion Spark program marked another pivotal achievement of our road and water supply infrastructure.
The program has identified 252 roads across several constituencies to have work done on them.
My road are fixed, your road are fixed, pipeline I get fixed. This is what prosperity is all about.
Brought to you by the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. This Emancipation Day, experience a night of powerful praise and purpose. CC Winans brings her More Than This tour to Jamaica with Chevelle Franklin, Kevin Downswell, Prince Saj, John Mark Wigan, hosted by IT Ellis and Nadine Blair. Gates open 2 p.m., showtime 5 p.m. Tickets at select outlets island-wide or online at spuropen.com. Follow at More Than This Jamaica on Instagram for updates. CC Winans, More Than This, a concert with a cause. Friday, August 1, King's House East, Lawns.
Get your CC Winans tickets right here at Love 101, 81 Hagley Park Road. $6,000 regular and $20,000 VIP. Don't miss out!
All right, welcome back to Sports Talk right here on the family station Love 101. We're having a riveting discussion with Kemal Ford and D Major. We're talking about the Jamaican exodus in the field to Turkey. And
Yes.
hopefully we'll get some time to talk about the national trials. If not, then hopefully I can pin down these gentlemen sometime this week to put it as a part of my next week show. But let's get back to what we're saying.
Yes.
Gentlemen, I also want to bother your minds a bit, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because Kemal made a point before we went to break about sponsorship.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I think I have maybe will come to the defense of the J3s a little on this point because, and let me tell you why. And don't you guys can agree or disagree. So because we're having a discussion
Mm-hmm.
as a Olympic gold medalist or Olympic bronze medalist in the likes of Stoner and Regina Campbell. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that if you are not able to market yourself as a medalist to get contracts, I
Mm-hmm.
strongly believe it is not only on the backs of the association, but also on the backs of your management team that you have found yourself in that position.
Definitely. When it comes
So Kemal, let me hear you.
All right, so when it comes on to the whole idea of management and everything, it's essential for like managers to have good relations with not only just their athletes and everything, agents have relationship with even the media per se, because a lot of this information was filtered to Omila Sport via agents and everything like that, right? However, looking at it, where a lot of these athletes they don't necessarily agents don't necessarily have their best interest, and it's sickening because at the end of the day, they should be working on behalf of the athletes, choosing the best deals. And I'm saying there is no athlete that goes to the Olympics and become a medalist that a sponsor doesn't approach them. Like every sponsor want to be aligned with an athlete who has a flagship medal, no matter the color of
Mm-hmm.
the medal and everything, because at the end of the day, it sells their brand. You understand? Like there are a lot of brands would want to have show companies would want to have all three medalists under their umbrella. You understand? And we have seen it many times where the same brand actually has two or three or all three medalists at a major championship, even though they represent different countries, which that looks good for the brand in general. We see Sydney and Femke representing New Balance as well, prime example of that. So again, the onus is not just only on, you can't really blame J3 in that situation. They really actually have to look on athletes themselves and the agents as well. Like agents should be basically championing that causing that arena for athletes to ensure that they're sponsored properly.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, see, can I couldn't have said it any better. D Major, in terms of
Mm-hmm.
the let's go to the greater public now because I mean you're a fan of the sport.
Yeah.
The those who what do you have to say? I'm
Well,
choosing my
if
words
if you if you
carefully.
if you're
But
speaking about just what you call it, sponsorship
uh-huh.
and being aligned with an endorsement deal or so, that is
Right.
definitely, you're right. That is definitely your agents or your managers duty to seek out the best deal for your best interest. However, it is this what we're dealing with is a bigger thing. it is a way broader and more loaded thing than just sponsorship deals and stuff. Okay, what can you say? The J3, remember, this has been an erosion that has started decades ago.
Yeah.
What has the J3 done significantly for the athletes?
Not enough.
Um,
That I will say, not
so so
enough.
so so I mean, even
especially
Juliet.
especially those in the field, not enough.
There you go. All right. So Juliet cut. I heard that. I saw a clip Juliet Cuthbert Flynn posted, and she said, you see, countries, including even the USA, their past Olympians even travel with the team, the teams that are going now. Some of them are made, you know, board members. Some of them are made members in the fraternity because they have been there, they've done that, so they know what athletes need. They know how to, represent and speak on behalf of the athletes, and they do so with pride. We need to implement stuff like that and ensure that we have some athletes. I don't know if our athletes turn that down or whatever, but I'm sure there are athletes here that would want to do so. We don't see the athletes traveling this. The athletes have passed traveling with the team, going to the Olympics, and stuff. So these are little things that would make you say, why? I love my thing that I'm not gonna move.
Yeah,
A lot of people are looking at it like it's a sellout and whatever, but however, it is the people's best interest they are looking out for. Look, this is their livelihood.
this
And
is their
everyone that is
profession.
complaining and cussing them, I am sure, given a better opportunity in life that is legal, would take it.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes,
Exactly. This is their profession.
exactly.
This is what they've decided to choose as their profession. So just like any other profession who leaves this
Yes.
country to make a better life for their families. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Wayne has an entire family here, including a
Right.
young child, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Jadon
Ye-
has his entire family here, including his mother
Yes.
and father. Let's
Yes.
not be here thinking that these people have family, they have ties to this country, people they have to support, people who are depending on them to make it in this profession that they've decided to take on. And if
Yes.
somebody, if an athlete, if a doctor, if a nurse, if a teacher, whomever
Mm-hmm.
decides to leave a country for a better life,
Exactly.
you cannot
Cannot.
absolutely blame
Yes.
them. And
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
especially on the backs of not being treated as they ought to be treated.
Indeed.
When you hear about the stories, and some of the stories cannot even be said, how our
No.
athletes were treated in Paris.
Go
If
through.
people were to know the conditions that our athletes, the lack of masseuse that we had in Paris, the lack of
Yes.
their personal coaches that we had in Paris, all of
Yeah.
these things that they had to endure, at some point, the cup is going to be full and running over. And no, the cup is now turned over, the glass broke, and everything is
Yeah.
all over the place. No, this is
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So before we complain, we have to look at the big picture and understand that these are human beings as well, and they are looking out for the best interests of their families and themselves. Because we can't just jump a sell out. Because remember, all who cussing them, all who say them sell out, never go to a training session yet and buy one at a bottle of water.
never.
Mhm.
They don't know how much it
They
is to
don't
buy
know how the
supplements.
rehab go. They
They
don't know how
don't
much
know.
supplements, the
Yeah,
dieting,
and
the physiotherapy, and all of that. And remember, some of these at least haven't yet broken through. Them left no breakthrough yet. So
yeah,
it takes a lot.
Yeah, come on,
and
go
it's a
ahead.
situation in which where a lot of athletes have to be choosing that, hey, between nutrition and probably like going to training, or even simple things like transportation, that they have to choose between
That
either.
alone.
That's thing that people face, a lot of athletes face on a daily basis, and a lot of them are not in a club situation where the club can say, yeah, man, you can get some funding and
Right.
people that when you make that breakthrough, you actually can repay us, which is obviously the right thing to do and everything, and it doesn't happen. And the thing about it is, if, with Jamaican field event athletes specifically, there's no community per se around rallying with them to say that, hey, we're going to
Yes.
support the long jumpers. You're going the level of excitement, like had Wayne Pinnock hadn't left switch allegiance and everything, that men's long jump final would have been a nationals with Sean D. Thompson, Tajay Gale, Kerry McLeod, and
Yeah.
Nikolai Williams would have been an epic event that Friday evening and Saturday afternoon, and nobody would be watching per se because, oh,
Watching it.
everyone,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So tell
don't
him, yeah.
think it's just crazy. But let me hear, because Carol sent me a message. So let's hear what Carol says. We have failed our field athletes. I wish it wasn't so, but it is what it is. They got very little support, which is not enough, and they have to look out for themselves. I wish them Godspeed. Yep, same thing, same thing. Caroline, coming back to Caroline, Caroline says J3 is not understand the athletes need full support system. It is so sad that some of them who we know, it's just not, it's not just about the money, and I keep on saying that. um
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
um we have to create better systems, and I hope, because sometimes when some of these things happen,
Mm-hmm.
or sporting associations
Mm-hmm.
sometimes decide to take the wrong message from from these things happening. I'm really hoping that J3 is, and the system and the government and sports ministry, they really take some time to,
Yes.
no, really,
Let me
really
tell you.
give
Let me
this
tell you
now
though.
time.
This isn't the first though. But
No, it isn't the first,
this has some big heavy hitters though. So that
but
is
this,
why
yeah,
it
this
bone
is this
everybody. So
this this
you,
this
you had
has
a
the
case
bigger
with
heavy hitters. Yeah,
Jack
right.
Harvey left.
And
Winston
Winston Barnes,
Barnes,
let's not, yeah,
and
exactly.
there's another sprinter. I can't remember his name now. But did this happen already?
Yeah, this
But no
happened
one
already, but I
never.
think,
Everybody turned them back because it wasn't an Asaf or
yeah,
Johan
yeah.
or anything like that. But
I
here we
really
go
think they
now.
have to get, we have to, I said this to a friend earlier this week. It's time for private sector, public sector, government, J3s. We have to put
Listen.
our monies, our mouths where our money, where our mouth there for these athletes. If we don't do
Yes.
that, we will
Mm-hmm.
lose more. And that is
Lose
just a
all of them. We can do
reality.
better.
And it's not,
We
it's
can do
the
better.
money and the support, the amount of eyes that athletes over the years have caused outside that, for tourism numbers and all these things to be in Jamaica. It is time for us to get serious as a country
Uh-huh.
about sports, because now we're not serious. Now we're playing games. It's
Most
games we're
definitely.
playing, and this is the result of the games that we play with, continue to play with our athletes, not prioritizing them well. Gentlemen,
Most definitely.
you have 30 seconds. I'll give you a last thought, both starting with Kemal. I'll start with you, 30 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
What's your final thoughts on this?
All right, final thoughts on this. Jamaica should prioritize succession planning ASAP, as soon as possible. I understand the fact that this might take an Olympic cycle or two, if so much, to recover from. A lot of field event athletes are in high school doing the high jump, the long jump, shot put, discus, and everything. Encourage them, I understand, put programs in place and ensure that persons who are coming forward in potentially a new administration can basically treat them better and ensure that we don't have an exodus of athletes leaving per se. Sure, it will happen again. You can't really like blame persons for choosing themselves. But at the end of the day,
But
a lot
make it
of
hard.
persons will be in a better position, getting sponsorship, being a lot more educated about sport, about the sport and everything, and making a lot more money apart from a show contract. Corporate Jamaica can step in and support a lot of these athletes as well.
Yeah, D
Indeed,
Major,
indeed,
your
indeed.
final thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, I echo the same sentiments. The administrative body needs to get cracking ASAP. No, have a meeting with the government and just fix things, simple and plain. Because this time around feels different. What might happen? This door that has been opened. Yeah, I'm sure you're going to have other countries even bigger than you might have the Qatars, the Bahrains coming on and taking athletes as well. So we have to wake up, and it might be not LSU we see at Boys and Girls Champs recruiting. It might be a country.
Yeah,
Hmm.
definitely. Big major point there. Gentlemen, thank you
Hmm.
so much for joining me. Hopefully, I can grab you guys in the week or maybe sometime later to talk about because we have to talk about the trials as well. But thank you so
No
much for
problem.
joining
Yes,
me.
sir.
Appreciate it. And of course, we'll continue to talk about this off the air. All right. This has been Sports Talk on the Family Station, Love 101 FM. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Carol, Caroline, all those who commented on YouTube, on Facebook. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Oh, we are disappointed, definitely. Cherry, everybody, we are disappointed, definitely, but we are hoping that this is a wake-up call for those who are in charge of sports administration in this country. This has been Love One. This has been Sports Talk on Love 101 FM. We do this every Saturday between the hours of 1 to 2 p.m. Have a great Saturday, everyone.